Have you ever stared at a blank screen, knowing exactly what you need to do, yet feeling physically unable to start typing even a single word? You sit there for hours, scrolling through your phone, calling yourself lazy, unmotivated, or even a failure. The guilt just keeps piling up inside you. Hello, I am Neo. What if I told you that you are not lazy at all? What if your brain is actually doing something completely different? The truth is, you are procrastinating not because you do not care about the task. Paradoxically, you are putting it off because you care way too much. Let us explore the mind of an overthinker. When an assignment feels incredibly important, your brain treats it as a high-stakes threat to your identity. Deep inside your head, your amygdala, the fear center, spots this task and rings the alarm. It screams, "If this is not perfect, we are in danger!" That heavy pressure of perfectionism is terrifying. Your brain desperately wants to protect you from the negative emotions, the fear of failing, and the deep anxiety. This is where the inner critic steps in. It whispers harsh words, telling you that if you cannot do it flawlessly, you should not even begin. To escape this harsh voice, your mind looks for an emergency exit. It seeks instant relief to calm down the nervous system and feel safe again. So you open an app or watch a random video. For a brief moment, the anxiety disappears. You feel safe, comfortable, and temporarily in control again. But this is just an illusion. You are not managing your time poorly. You are actually just trying to manage your difficult feelings. This is called emotion-focused coping. As psychologist Fuchsia Sirois explains, procrastination is an emotion regulation problem. You delay the task to avoid the negative mood associated with doing it. However, the relief is incredibly short-lived. Soon, the dark cloud of guilt rolls in, making the task feel even more impossible than it did before. The more you care, the more it hurts. And the more it hurts, the more your brain tries to run away from the pain by procrastinating. So, if laziness is not the real culprit, what exactly is running the show in your mind? Let us go deeper and meet the procrastination monster. Welcome to the hidden lounge of your mind. Let me introduce you to a character you probably know very well. Meet the procrastination monster. Look at him. He is just a cozy, soft purple blob scrolling through endless short videos on his little phone, completely ignoring your strict deadlines. Society tells us that this monster is simply lazy, undisciplined, or lacking willpower. We are constantly told that we just need to try much harder. But if you look closer, this monster is not actually lazy. In fact, he is working incredibly hard to protect your fragile emotional state right now. Whenever you think about that major project, your brain experiences a sharp spike of negative emotions. Fear, self-doubt, and immense pressure flood your nervous system. The procrastination monster senses this massive wave of anxiety. His primary job is not to ruin your career, but to offer you an immediate emotional rescue. He pulls you away from the scary task and hands you a distraction. A funny video, a quick game, anything to make you feel instantly better. Think of procrastination as an emotional bandage. It temporarily stops the bleeding of your self-esteem when you are terrified of not being good enough. This perfectly explains why highly ambitious and overthinking people procrastinate the most. The higher your standards are, the more terrifying the starting line actually becomes. A truly lazy person simply does not care about the outcome at all. They do nothing, and they feel completely fine with doing absolutely nothing. But you are paralyzed. You do nothing, but inside your mind is a chaotic war zone of guilt, panic, and a deep sense of shame. The tragedy of the procrastination monster is that his quick, short-term rescue mission always creates a much larger, massive, long-term disaster for your future self. So why does your brilliant mind fall for this trap every single time? To understand this, we need to dive deep into the brain's internal battleground. Your brain has a built-in glitch called present bias. It strongly prefers feeling good right now over feeling amazing tomorrow, even if it hurts later. In the next phase, we will watch the epic biological battle between your rational prefrontal cortex and your panicked amygdala. Who will win this fight? Welcome to the brain's battleground. On the left side, we have the prefrontal cortex, the logical CEO of your mind who wants you to succeed. This logical part of you is actively trying to plan out the massive project, step by step, focusing heavily on your long-term future goals and success. But on the right side, hiding in the shadows, is the amygdala. It is the ancient emotional alarm system, constantly scanning the environment for any danger. To the amygdala, this high-pressure task looks exactly like a terrifying predator. It screams loudly, warning you that failure will completely destroy your self-worth. Immediately, a fierce biological tug-of-war begins inside your head. The logical CEO is desperately pulling you toward work, while the panicked alarm pulls you toward safety. You might wonder, why does the emotional alarm usually win? The answer lies in evolution. Your amygdala is millions of years older and reacts almost instantly. Meanwhile, your logical prefrontal cortex uses up a massive amount of energy. It gets exhausted incredibly fast, especially when you are already tired or highly stressed. When the rational brain runs out of battery, the panicked amygdala takes full control of your actions. It immediately demands an urgent emotional escape route completely. It screams for instant relief to numb the pain. This is exactly when the cozy procrastination monster steps in to save the day with pleasant distractions. By scrolling through social media or playing a video game, your brain receives a quick dopamine hit, which acts like a soothing medicine for your anxiety. For a few golden minutes, the amygdala finally calms down. The massive emotional threat feels like it has magically disappeared from your immediate reality entirely now. But here's the worst part. Your logical brain is still awake in the background, helplessly watching you waste precious time while the deadline rapidly approaches. This creates that terrible split brain feeling. You desperately want to start working, yet you physically watch yourself doing absolutely nothing but blankly staring at your phone. In psychology, this phenomenon is deeply related to an amygdala hijack. Your intense fear of failure has completely overpowered your logical ability to work. So, traditional time management tools cannot stop this emotional hijack. What is the real secret to finally overcoming this paralyzing procrastination loop once and for all? Most people think that the cure for procrastination is better time management. You buy fancy planners, download new productivity apps, and set strict morning alarms. But what happens next? You just end up staring at that beautiful, perfectly organized to-do list while still hopelessly scrolling through social media anyway. Time management tools fail because they are trying to solve the wrong problem entirely. You cannot fix an emotional wound with a simple scheduling calendar. This brings us to a breakthrough in psychology. Researchers like Fuchsia Sirois and Timothy Pitchell discovered the real truth behind this paralyzing behavior. Their studies concluded that procrastination is actually an emotion regulation problem, not a time management problem. It is a coping mechanism for negative moods. When a specific task makes you feel bored, frustrated, insecure, or deeply anxious, your brain registers that task as a direct emotional threat. Your mind instantly wants to repair this bad mood. So, it seeks out an activity that will provide immediate comfort and a sense of safety. It is like touching a dangerously hot stove. Your natural instinct is to pull your hand away immediately to avoid getting burned and feeling pain. But here is the tricky part. By running away from the uncomfortable feelings, you are unintentionally rewarding your brain for avoiding the important work. Every time you avoid a hard task and feel that wave of relief, your brain learns a dangerous lesson. Avoidance equals safety and happiness. This powerful psychological phenomenon is called present bias. We humans are wired to prioritize our immediate present comfort over our future well-being and success. The future version of you feels like a completely different person to your brain. You basically dump all the stress onto a total stranger. You tell yourself, tomorrow I will wake up early, feel super motivated, and easily finish everything. But that magical tomorrow never actually arrives. Because when tomorrow finally becomes today, you are still the exact same person, facing the exact same scary emotions, and the exact same fears. You are caught in a trap where you are trying to manage your mood instead of managing your time. But how do we break out? To escape this trap, we must first destroy the biggest myth of all, the illusion of waiting for the right mood to finally begin working. You sit at your desk, sighing heavily, staring at the wall. You convince yourself that you just need to feel inspired before you can write. But here is a harsh psychological truth. Motivation is not a magical fairy that suddenly visits your bedroom to sprinkle inspiration dust on your head. In reality, science shows that action actually precedes motivation. Your brain needs you to start moving first before it decides to give you the energy. When you wait for the perfect emotional state, you are actually just giving your anxiety more time to grow larger and paralyze you even further. The resistance you feel is always highest right before you begin. Your mind builds up a terrifying wall of awful expectations about the difficult task. Psychologists call this the affective forecasting error. You predict that doing the work will be incredibly painful, but your prediction is almost always completely wrong. Think of it like a tiny mouse casting a giant, terrifying shadow on the wall. The task looks impossible until you actually step towards it. The secret is to lower your expectations completely. Do not aim for a point of mind. To write one single terrible sentence. The moment you type that very first word, something incredible happens inside your head. The massive, invisible wall of resistance suddenly shatters into tiny pieces. Your brain looks around and realizes, oh wait, this is not a dangerous predator, this is just a keyboard. I am actually perfectly safe here. As you complete that first tiny step, your brain rewards you. Dopamine is released, creating the actual motivation you need to take the next step. This is how momentum is built. You do not wait for the fire to start on its own. You have to strike the match yourself. So waiting for the right mood is just another clever disguise that your inner critic uses to keep you trapped in the safe comfort zone. But what happens if you stay in that comfort zone too long? Next, let us explore the doom loop of guilt that slowly destroys you. Welcome to the doom loop. When you procrastinate, you borrow a tiny moment of peace from the present, but you pay it back with massive interest tomorrow. At first, scrolling feels like a warm hug, but soon, the background anxiety creeps in. You are physically resting, but mentally, you are completely exhausted. The task you are avoiding does not just pause. It sits in the dark corners of your mind, quietly growing larger, heavier, and much more intimidating. The procrastination monster desperately tries to hand you more distractions, but the dopamine magic stops working. The fun videos suddenly feel entirely hollow and deeply empty. This is exactly when your inner critic returns with a vengeance. It uses your delay as absolute proof that you are a total and complete failure. It whispers, "Look at you, wasting time again. Everyone else is working hard and you are just lazy." The guilt quickly transforms into deep, toxic shame. Shame is an incredibly heavy emotion. It drains your remaining energy, making the idea of starting the work feel not just scary, but physically, utterly impossible. Your brain is now officially in a crisis. Let me introduce you to another chemical character that thrives in this chaos. Meet cortisol, the stress hormone. Cortisol floods your nervous system like a loud, obnoxious fire alarm. It makes your heart race, your chest tighten, and your breathing become incredibly shallow. Under this massive flood of stress, the poor, logical brain completely short-circuits. You cannot think clearly, you cannot plan, and you certainly cannot focus anymore. So you are trapped. You are too stressed to work, but you are also way too guilty to actually relax and enjoy your free time. The clock keeps ticking aggressively. Hours turn into late nights. The terrifying deadline is now staring you right in the face, completely unavoidable and massive. Finally, the sheer terror of missing the deadline entirely overpowers your fear of failing the task. You are forced to start, fueled by pure panic. You frantically type away at 3 in the morning. You finish the work, but your nervous system is completely destroyed, leaving you feeling utterly miserable. You survived, but at a terrible emotional cost. And strangely, a part of your brain actually wanted this chaotic outcome. Let us find out why. Welcome to the darkest truth about procrastination. Why would your brilliant brain actually prefer the chaotic panic of a last-minute rush? The answer is self-handicapping. Deep down, your ultimate fear is not just missing a simple deadline. Your ultimate fear is trying your absolute best and discovering you are not good enough. Imagine starting an important project early. You spend weeks pouring your entire heart and soul into the work, making sure every single detail is absolutely perfect. But then, despite all your hard work, the final result is still rejected or criticized. To your inner critic, this is undeniable proof of your incompetence. That painful realization would be completely devastating to your fragile ego. It would permanently shatter your core identity as a smart, capable, and highly talented individual. To prevent this emotional disaster, your mind creates an incredibly clever, yet highly toxic defense mechanism. It intentionally sets you up to fail right from the start. By intentionally waiting until the absolute last minute to start, you are secretly creating a massive handicap for yourself. You are actively building an impossible obstacle course. When you finally rush through the work at 3 in the morning and submit a mediocre project, you have successfully built the perfect psychological excuse. You can easily tell yourself, well, this work is not my best, but I only had 3 hours to do it. It is not my fault. You comfortably believe, I could have done it perfectly if I just had more time. Therefore, your underlying talent and intelligence remain completely safe and unquestioned. Psychologists call this self-handicapping. You are subconsciously choosing to sabotage your own performance just to protect your fragile self-esteem from the painful sting of true failure. You trade a potentially excellent outcome for the comforting illusion of untested potential. You never truly fail, but you also never truly discover what you can do. The tragic problem is that this protective shield eventually becomes a heavy prison. It keeps you forever trapped in a cycle of mediocrity, anxiety, and exhaustion. You might survive the endless deadlines, but you are slowly burning out your creative spark. The constant stress is secretly destroying your joy and your health. So how do we finally stop this painful cycle? How do we defeat the inner critic and the procrastination monster? We have to change the rules completely. To break this spell, you must realize that punishing yourself with more guilt simply does not work. It only feeds the inner critic and creates more anxiety. Psychological research consistently shows that self-compassion, not strict discipline, is the most effective way to overcome procrastination. You have to forgive yourself for delaying. When you forgive yourself, you instantly lower the emotional threat level in your brain. The amygdala stops ringing the panic alarm, allowing you to breathe. Next, you must completely lower your incredibly high standards. Give yourself permission to do a genuinely terrible job on your very first attempt today. Just write one messy paragraph, draw one ugly sketch, or read one single page. Make the task so ridiculously easy that your brain cannot feel afraid. When the fear of failure vanishes, the procrastination monster loses his job. He no longer needs to rescue you with cheap dopamine distractions anymore. Once you actually start, the logical prefrontal cortex easily takes the steering wheel again. You quickly realize the water is not as freezing as you feared. You finally enter a state of flow. The anxiety melts away, replaced by a quiet, steady rhythm of actual, meaningful progress toward your future goals. So the next time you find yourself frozen in front of a blank screen, please remember this. You are not lazy, and you are not broken. You are simply a person who cares deeply about your work, but you are carrying too much fear of not being good enough to succeed. Drop the heavy burden of perfectionism. Step out of the comfortable shadow of potential and bravely step into the messy, beautiful reality of trying. Your worth is not tied to a flawless outcome. It is built on your courage to show up, even when you feel completely unprepared. Take a deep breath. Close that distracting app. Give yourself permission to be beautifully imperfect, and just take one tiny step forward today. I am Neo, and together we have decoded another mystery of your mind. Stay curious, be kind to yourself, and I will see you soon. This video is for educational purposes only and does not replace professional psychological advice. If you are struggling with your mental health, please seek professional help.